You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And on today's show, we have Cheryl Herrick. She is the co-founder of Global One Habitat, which is a really interesting housing development company, I guess is how I would frame it. But they're out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and she's here to talk systems and processes with us and their importance in your business. But before we bring her in, we're going to talk systems and processes first. And I'm getting a face from Corey, so I'm not really sure if I messed up that intro or not.
I don't know if I'd call it a development company.
What would you call it?
Like a fabrication, like housing fabrication, housing solution. Because they're not actually like doing the housing developments. They're building the houses that go into the developments.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't thinking of like development in that sense. I was thinking of it that they've developed this new technology for houses, but you're right. I didn't word it well. So
yeah. Well, so anyway, yeah, they have a proprietary system and supplies and what I'm looking for, materials, where they can, using very simple techniques and very almost kind of like Legos, but not really, they can put together a house with a small amount of people in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
It's affordable in the sense that it's, they have just a couple of options. So there's no like real bells or whistles, but the idea is that it's, they're extremely efficient in terms of cost and energy and time and especially money. So
yeah, they're working on solving the housing problem for people.
Yes.
Yeah. But before we dig in with her, we're going to talk a little bit about one of Corey's very favorite subjects. And no, it's not gambling, because that would also be mine. We're going to talk about process.
Yes, and that's secretly one of your favorite topics to talk about, because over the years you hated process, but you found out that it's a part of everything.
Well, I sometimes will, it happened to us just recently, right? Where we had something happen with a client, and I literally reached back out to you and I sent you an email. I said, hey, do we need to update our processes for this? And you were like, oh, hey, good call. Let me look into it. So I think you've beaten it into me at this point. I have been beat into submission over process.
I didn't beat anything. You just realized how important that they are, because they are. And it's one of those things that a lot of people, they get, they're intimidated by it. It's almost like financials or whatever. They think it's this long drawn out, the process of process is crazy and you have to have all these drawings. And no, it's you just need to know what you do, and it can be as simple or as complicated as you want, but you just need to know what it is that you do, and you need to be able to replicate it.
So does that mean that I don't have to know how to create cool drawings in Visio to understand process?
No, just like bulleted lists are fine. Drawing it out on a whiteboard or listing it out on the back of a napkin, whatever it is. I mean, you want it to be a little more formal when you're presenting it to your team or you're reviewing it or whatever. But yes, you can put it in any format that makes sense to you.
Why do you think people struggle so much with people who aren't like, belted in process? They don't have a green belt or a black belt or whatever other color belts you can get in process. Why do you think they struggle so much with the concept of processes?
Because of that reason. That it's been beat into their heads that you have to be a 6 Sigma black belt in order to understand process.
Oh yeah.
But you don't, anybody, it's like, you don't have to be a black belt to get in a fight. Anybody can get in a fight. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but.
Do you remember that time that we were building a team and I thought we were building a transformation team, and it turned out we were building a process team? And I think you were pretty much the only person who didn't get upset when you found out that you were actually a process analyst and not a subject matter expert in a functional business area.
Yeah, I didn't really have much emotion about that team to begin with. So
That team changed your life.
Now that team changed directions, and I gave up like 1,000 times, and I gave up after like the 10th. I was like, whatever.
Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was that one summer where I was getting torn between the ERP rollout and doing process work, and talked to our boss, and he's like, well, I'm going to need you. I'm like, I don't care. I was like, if you're splitting me between two roles, you're going to get 50% of the work done on both. So you got to pick one or the other.
Just pick.
Yep.
Just pick one.
Never did pick one. Just split it 50-50.
Right. That always reminds me of, like, when we say, like, just tell me what you want me to do. That episode of Seinfeld. I don't know if you were a big Seinfeld person or not.
Of course.
Where Kramer kept getting the calls for 1-800-film. They were calling 1-800.
The movie phone guy.
Yeah. Movie. And he says, why don't you just tell me what movie you want to see? It's one of my favorites. But okay, so on the process front, if there was is it a like hot tip or a take or something that you can give people to help them make it simpler in their minds, what would you say?
I mean, there's nothing that it's as simple as you want to make it. It's like the process of closing a sale. Like you do it, it's in your head. You might have some of it written down. It might be spread across a couple of people, depending on the size of your organization, but you need to you close the sale, you need to fill out a certain piece of paperwork. The customer needs to go into your CRM. They need to get an onboarding package. Somebody needs to follow up with them. Like they need to get added to this. Like there's all these things that need to happen. It's whether or not you formalize it and written it down. And chances are you probably do have it written down. It might be in a couple different places. Like I said, you just need to combine them just so that you know that you could hand that off to anybody. The idea being that you want to make your life easier. You can hand it off to anybody and they can take that and they can do your job or that salesperson's job or whatever it is with little to no direction.
So we use processes every day in everything we do.
Correct.
Yeah. Business and personal.
Yeah. And like, I mean, driving to work in the morning is a process. You have to put your clothes on. You have to put your keys in your pocket. You have to turn the car on. You have to, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't think about it that way because that would just be dumb to think about it that way because there's certain things that you can do without having to describe it. But let's say you were trying to explain to, your kid who's new at driving on how to get to from point A to point B. It's like, all right, well, here's the things that you're going to have to do. So when you're new, you're going to have to train somebody in your business to do whatever it is that they're doing. From there, it becomes kind of, you essentially put yourself on cruise control, but.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, we should wrap up and bring Cheryl in so we can talk process with her.
All right.
All right. We'll see you in a minute.
We wanted to take a quick break to tell you about our newest course called Time Bomb. If you're ready to take control of your calendar, this course is for you. We guide you through all the steps you need to understand where you're spending your time, what your time is worth, and how to build out your days and weeks so that you can add more value to your business or just spend that time enjoying life. We have 3 options for you. The course, a bundle which includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time, and a boot camp where you'll get time in a small group setting to get the personalized help you need. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right. Welcome back to the show. We've got Cheryl Herrick with us now from Global One Habitats. Hey, Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to bring you on. And I know you guys are working on some really big things. So before we dig into process, everyone's favorite topic, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Global One Habitats?
Sure. It is a startup for affordable houses. My cousin actually started the idea of it. He came up with an idea to build houses with no wood, no nails, and we're be able to produce 1 house per 8-hour shift. So we consider ourselves manufacturers, and we're manufacturing a widget, and the widget just happens to be a house.
Yeah, and we got to see a little bit of behind the scenes on Monday, and it's definitely an interesting. Very interesting, very innovative thing that you've got going on over there with all the materials and the way that you throw everything together and build the house. And I say throw everything together like you construct everything.
It's like Lincoln Logs. It's okay. You can say throw it together. We don't
I think earlier he used descriptor of it's like Legos.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool. So tell us about, we've had a conversation prior to this about the work that you do behind the scenes. So your cousin came up with the idea, the material, like all of like the science and everything behind that. And your dad does a lot of like the front end, the business, the sales stuff, and you're more like the back end. Did I get all that correct?
Actually, it's you're right, and there's a little bit more to it. My dad and I are both doing operations and both doing sales, which is unusual, but we're kind of tag teaming. So this is the way I describe it, Corey. My job is to drag the bear into the cabin, and then he dances with the bear once I get it in there. So that's the sales part of it.
And you're new to sales, right?
I am new to selling this house, but I'm not new to sales in general, but working in, I still consider it manufacturing, but I've had to learn a lot about construction, which I did not know before we got into this business. So I came from a world of medical devices, automotive technology, things like that. So I didn't really know anything about house building. And even though our technology is decidedly different than conventional stick built, I have to understand the language of the builders and the investors and the developers when they ask questions and do a comparison between stick built technology and what our answer is to that. So it's been a steep slope of learning for me. So the selling in that arena has been new and it's been fun, actually. I've liked the challenge of it, but it's been a steep slope, not gonna lie.
I would say that the challenge of selling is it's fun, but it's also a challenge.
Yeah. I got a very good news text right before we started this today.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Whatever it is, that's good.
Yes. So let's jump into the process, so to speak, in that you're able to, with a relatively small crew, build a house in 8 hours. And anybody out there who's ever built anything, 8 hours to build an entire house is an incredibly quick amount of time to build a livable space. So can you kind of walk through how you got to where you are, because I'm sure it wasn't 8 hours. There was a lot of iteration, a lot of improvements and all of that.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question, Corey. So there's a couple things. One is that we first looked at the market to see if it was a market to get into, right? Because we have to know that we're going to be able to, my dad has come up with, we've worked together and come up with this investment notion. It's the 5 M's. Is there enough market for the good or service? Is there enough margin left in that market? Do we have enough money to do the thing that we want to do? Do we have methods, which is where the process part comes in? Do we have methods that would be superior to what other people have that would give us a competitive advantage? And the last one is like mental health, mental attitude. Is there somebody in the mix that the business can't live without and that has a mental block or that would create mental blocks in the business that you could not get around? Because if you get the wrong answer to number 5, the first 4 do not matter whatsoever. And so our process started at the very beginning with being able to do all the market research to do what we do, because we do things upside down from other people. We spend an inordinate amount of time documenting the way we're going to do everything in a very structured, disciplined way, which I know you've seen, Corey and Julie, but we're very disciplined about the way that we document everything. So we've been working on the documentation of operations for like 18 months now, getting all of that like wired. So on the day we got a sale, we would actually be able to fulfill on that promise, because delivery is everything, right? Getting the sale is only part of it, but if you can't deliver on the sale, you shot yourself in the foot. So we document like step by step how to do the work, and we include videos and photos and all kinds of things in our process flow diagrams to make sure that anyone can come in the door in with a small amount of training, get up to speed about how to do almost any job inside of our company.
And I love that approach. And it's funny because I don't know how many different businesses I've been involved with, bosses I've worked for, et cetera, where like they've always used the the statement, oh, we're building the ship while we're flying it. And a lot of small businesses that we talk to, they want to just get going. They want to get selling, and then they start working on the processes later. And that, to me, that's just frustrating, because you're going to get so many things wrong, and you're going to spend so much time fixing what you could have just done right the first time. So I really appreciate that you spent the time to say, okay, this is how we're going to do it, knowing that I'm sure you've made changes along the way as you find better ways to do things. But, here's how we're going to start this. And, we're not just going to jump in with both feet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that I think probably drew me and Julie together in some ways, is that she talked a lot about how much you're into process. And like, I know you guys have your program, is it Foundation 52, is that right? Which is all about creating a good foundation underneath what your clients are about to build. And so the way that we do it is just, it's our version of creating a good solid foundation by which we can build everything. Because the point of fact for us in our team members, as much as we love to have people that work with us for a really long time, if we have those really disciplined processes, we are never over a barrel if somebody leaves, because we have all that information. And so it allows us to be very open and supportive and what do I want to say? We're shooting for 100% turnover. We want people to go start their own company, get a better job somewhere, do something that is really their dream and fulfilling to them based on the business philosophy that we've taught them. And so, as disciplined as we are about documenting things, there's no, that we don't have any fear about being supportive and developing people and giving them wings to go fly somewhere else. And our preference is always they start a business that would supply to us. So we would use the same business philosophy, and we would know that we could talk that language. But so many people it's something that I see really common when people do not document processes. There's a sacred cow employee. They're terrified to let that person go. Generally, that person is destructive to the organization because they are a sacred cow. So you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, and 9 times out of 10, what happens is that sacred cow walks out the door of their own volition. And so the thing that everybody was terrified about, which is that the sacred cow would leave, is the very thing that happens that they then have to deal with. And so they let that get imposed on themselves because they don't have a disciplined, documented way to run their business that's visible for everyone. And we use this process flow diagram and this systems approach with all different kinds of industries and all different kinds of workforces. It's not something that you have to be a certain kind of person to use it. It actually makes it easier for anyone to come in the door. And it's high level training that we do when people come in, but it allows everybody to understand how a business runs, to understand business philosophy, the numbers that are important, how to go look for things in the business, how to think through problem solving, what to look for. It gives them all of those things. And we're also creating those processes in the way that we talk all the time, right? About people learn in different ways. But if we don't train, educate, and develop in all the ways that people learn, then we're shortchanging somebody. If all of our instruction is audio, and you say, I've told them 10 times, I don't know why they don't get it. If you told them 10 times and they don't get it, telling them 10 more times isn't going to help, because they're not an auditory learner. So continuing to tell a visual learner auditorily how to do something is a waste of energy, and it frustrates you and it frustrates them. So the way that we approach it with the process flow diagrams and attaching photos, videos, databases, PDFs, whatever, it gives it to people in all of their learning styles, because kinesthetic is very similar to seeing things in word, picture, video. So if we give it to them in all those ways, it's closer to fulfilling every learning style in the way that things are documented.
I might be putting you on the spot with this next question, so ballpark is fine, but I'm sure you have an idea of the amount of time you've spent building out these processes. Could you estimate the amount of time that you're saving on the back end if you had not put them, built them out to begin with?
It's a really great question, Corey, and it's not putting me on the spot, because I'm open to any kind of question. And my answer is, I have no idea. what it's saving us other than this. The thing that I know for sure it's saving us is if we had not done it, we would not be able to deliver on time as promised. So the reason that we do it is that for us, we can either plan it all out on paper ahead of time or put out all the fires during production. One of them is way less expensive and saves a lot of time. The other one, everybody is running around putting out fires, which in the manufacturing production world, time is everything. And you do not want to slow down the line. You don't want to have anybody have to walk away from the line for any reason. You want people to be able to just be focused on the job at hand. And all of those fire putting out, it's frustrating for the team members. It's frustrating for the people that work there. They didn't ask to come and have to solve all that noise. They came and said, I'll be innovative. I will help you solve business problems. But they weren't hired to run around and put out fires. So as leaders, our job is to give them a method to do their work that removes as many barriers as possible. So I don't know what the time is, but what I do know, and what I can say with absolute confidence, is that if we had not done it, the orders that are now coming in, hallelujah, are for our startup, we wouldn't be able to deliver on that promise, because for us, a minimum order is 100 houses. We're not just building one house at a time. When an order comes in, it's for 100 houses, and we have to move a manufacturing facility to their site, get set up and train people and start pumping out houses. And we're going to do that inside of about 4 months. So we'll go from being in North Carolina to ramping up and spitting out houses within 4 months and 1 week in a new location, with all new employees that live in that area. It's because we spent all the time on the front end, and people think we are so crazy for having spent so much time on this documentation. 4 hours, 3 days a week for like 18 months now. We've been doing it.
That's amazing. And I think, what I was thinking of as you were talking about the expense on the back end, right? You put out the fire and it costs way more money to do it on the back end than it does on the front end. Is I used to lead, in a previous life, really software development team, right? And the expense of finding a bug when you find it really, really matters. So having the good requirements, having a good testing process, looking at things early, being iterative is important, because it saves you money. And in some instances, it saves lives. It just depends on what you're building. So it's very, that's what I thought of when you were talking about those processes and what you're gaining from them by having them in place.
And real quick, Cheryl, question for you about the housing development that you're doing, the 100 houses. How long is it going to take you to complete that project, the 100 houses?
So I've been sitting down, playing around on paper, confirming our numbers, truthfully, to satisfy myself, because I'm a girl who needs to prove it to herself. Everyone else can tell me, and then I'm going to sit down and say, okay, we've been talking about this. Okay, now this girl's going to sit down and put pencil to paper. So it will take us, this is going to be funny to do this math. It's going to take us 5 months to do 5 houses, the first 5 months. On month 6, we're going to pump out, depending on how fast they want them, we can pump out 5 houses per week or 15 houses per week on month 6. No, month 5, 6. Yeah, month 6. Because the first 4 months is going to be set up the manufacturing facility at the site, work out all the supply chain stuff that we'll have to work out in that region, bring on board the people, train them, get the manufacturing facility built and ready to roll. And then week 1, it'll be one house that will pump out. I'm giving us 2 weeks to pump out the first house at the new location. Everybody else is giving us a week. I'm giving us a buffer myself when I did the math. So that first month, it's going to go slow, because we're going to be ironing out all of the things that maybe in our process we hadn't predicted. But then so that's like month 4 to do the setup, month 5 to do those first 5 houses to really get it refined. And then month 6, we'll be pumping out 5 to 15 houses a week. So in 6.5 months, we could have all 100 houses pumped out.
That's insane.
And if it's a bigger development, then they really benefit from the scale, right? The numbers, just the scale of it, because all of that preceding work that we did to get set up now is behind us. So now if they want us to pump out that many houses, it's 3 shifts that would be pumping out, 3 houses a day, which is 15 houses a week. So if they want that, then that's when they really benefit from the economies of scale, because then we've already done all the setup and we'll just stay there and pump out house. We don't care. It's a widget. We're just going to pump out widgets.
Right. So location A, 6.5 months to get to 100 houses that first time. Location B, what's your rent? You don't need that 5 months to get to those.
It's going to depend on where the location is. If location B is in Florida, we'll build a new facility in Florida because it's portable. So we'll leave something on the western side of the US, which would be where the first development is going to be. And then if the other development is across the country, we'll just build another development and we'll build another factory there, because our belief is once we get going in a region, people are going to know about us. And right now, everybody is, because we're a startup, everybody wants us to prove ourselves. And we're fine with that. I understand that. I absolutely understand that. And we're okay with that. And we've said all along, we just need that first order so that people can see we can actually put up what we say we can put up. So our intention is to have a portable manufacturing facility in every state. So if the next development is just down the street, or 50 miles away, yes, it cuts that time way down, way down. Because we've just got to get moved and plunk it in the grass. And hopefully those people will want to stay with us and go to the next place. But if they don't, we'll get them trained within just a few weeks and we'll be ready to rock.
So we need to start wrapping up, but I want to ask, I have a final question. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask a final question, but you go right ahead.
No.
It's the same final question that I have.
It's probably not.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, okay, so we're not going to wrap up yet. I was curious what, the benefit of process, like what you can tell our listeners about making that upfront investment in it, just in terms of like getting people to think more process like what are, I know you covered like that cost advantage of fixing it now versus fixing it later or solving problems, but a lot of small business owners probably don't think they have the time or the bandwidth to actually work on process. So what's something that would maybe convince them that they do have the time or the bandwidth to do it?
It's almost the same thing. It's that the time that they have to do it is the time that they're spending putting out fires and chasing after things that are not working right, because they're budgeting that time. They are budgeting time to solve a problem, and I would rather see them budget time to prevent the problem in the future. So the documentation piece, if done well, can help them prevent that problem in the future. So all the time that's being allocated to, duplicate things and chase after this, and this doesn't work, and that there's that problem over there, they do have to take a deep breath, and it is developing a new habit. So I understand that it's hard because you have to create momentum in a different direction, and it doesn't all have to get done in an instant. But if even if people could commit 2 hours a week, if they could find 2 hours a week to start doing document creation, they would be so much further along a year from now, because it's never ending. It doesn't end. It's not done, because you're developing new processes, you're growing, you're innovating. So you're always going to have new things to document. So it becomes the way that we do business.
Yeah, and that was basically the same, along the same lines that I was going to ask. And it is definitely a process in the sense that you just have to kind of get going, and it's never ending, and it seems like it's daunting, but once you kind of start to get rolling and get in the habit and all of that, it definitely becomes easier and easier. You just start thinking that way. And for all the listeners out there, I estimated based upon the 4 hours, 3 days a week for 18 months, that Cheryl was somewhere between 900 to 1,000 hours of process work to get to where she is. You don't need to do that for your business.
No, you do not.
You do not. You do not. This is a heavily steeped manufactured, really worried about safety. That's why I said if they can commit 2 hours a week, I think that's a low bar to jump over.
Yeah, absolutely.
The payback would be tremendous.
Yeah, we commit an hour a week. We have our continuous improvement meetings every Friday. So they're always interesting because, well, it's process. So
I know.
one of us loves it and one of us is like, ugh. All right. Well, thank you, Cheryl. Can you tell our listeners how they can learn more about you and the business?
Sure. They can look us up at Global One Habitats. That's who we are on Instagram or on the website.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to drop in today. We really appreciated and enjoyed the conversation. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and all of Cheryl's information that she just provided for the business will be in our show notes.
You can connect with us on social media. We've got LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we've also got our own YouTube channel. I got that correct this time.
You did. Nice work.
And you can go out there and check out our Project 365. We got some other videos, etc. Everything that you need to know is on our website, sbpace.com, including links to all of our social media.
Yes. And you can subscribe to our podcast while you're out on the old interwebs, wherever you listen to podcasts. Oh, and it would be so wonderful if you liked us and gave us a review, because we love feedback.
And if you want to be on the show, that information's on the website as well. You can fill out a form and we'll reach out to you. If you just want us to cover a certain topic, reach out to us. You can shoot us an email, track us down some way, any way you can, social media, whatever it is. We also have a book out there. It's called Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. It is a #1 bestseller on Amazon. There's a digital workbook available on our website for a download to go with the book. And if you've already purchased the book, or if you purchased it in the future and read it, we'd love it if you could just give us a review on the book.
Yeah, I just realized our outro is getting as long as the interviews themselves.
Yes.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And this was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.